Okay, welcome back. Today, I wanted to talk to you about three common mistakes that you could make whenever you're crocheting. And as you can see, I have my three sets of yarn here. These are typical red heart yarns. Any yarn will do. So whatever yarn you're working on in your project, this also applies. Doesn't really matter the type of yarn or the size of the hook. And with these three pieces, I used my typical size G hook, so it's pretty standard for size 4 yarn. So let's just get into it. So I made three swatches here, so three common mistakes. So I made a foundation chain. Let me pull some more yarn out here so I have some room. I made a foundation chain of 20 for each one of these, and I made some mistakes deliberately on them to just show you the difference between three common mistakes. So this purple yarn, as you can see, here's my chain 20. We'll get a little closer here. Here's my chain 20, and the edges are basically like going in. This means that I have skipped the end stitches and did not do the ends appropriately. So there's an end here, an end stitch that I did not stitch in. So it's going to make your edge kind of wavy, and it'll go in, and then maybe you'll realize it and you'll start adding extra stitches and your edge will start being wavy there. Over here, I did not chain into the last stitches, so it's kind of going in as well. So here we're missing stitches on the ends. That is a very, very, very common mistake. Don't feel bad if you make it. And I will show you what to do here in just a moment, and how to prevent that. Now, once you've done it, now if there's a little small swatch like this, not so bad. You can always correct it if you don't want to rip out your work. But my recommendation is to frog it, what they call frogging, and just rip it out. They call it rip it. So rip it out, start over, because that will create the best foundation for your work. This one, the pink one, I made the 20 chain foundation, and now as you can see, your work is growing bigger. So on the edges, I apologize, my watch is going off. On the edges, it's starting to basically kind of go like this. So it's getting bigger on the edges. So as you can see, I made a stitch in that foundation chain. So instead of stopping at the single crochet, I made a stitch in that additional foundation chain, which is creating an additional stitch, and then making an additional stitch in the side of the single crochet, creating another additional stitch. And I did it on each end. And that kind of makes your work grow when it shouldn't be, especially if you're making something like an afghan or a scarf or something like that, when in reality, between my fingers is only how big it should be. So it's just kind of growing. That is a very, very, very common mistake. The next common mistake is, I'll get my ends away so you can see, is making the foundation chain. And as you can see, this one is kind of like rippling. It's bubbling and being weird. And at first glance, you really can't tell what's happening here. But if you look a little closer, there are stitches being skipped. So I don't know if you can see that. It's very, very, very hard to see, but I made 20 stitches or 20 chains here at the bottom, which means I have 19 stitches. So remember, you have the one stitch at the end that you turn with. So if we come up here and we count our stitches, so this is my chain, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So I have skipped 2 stitches in this work, and it's so hard to see, but there's a stitch here that's missed. Can you see it? If not, don't get frustrated, because they're very, very hard to see once you get all of your work together and you're like, why is it so wonky? Why does it look weird? That's why. Count. I can't tell you how important that is to count. So you started with 19 stitches with that one extra chain. So 19 total stitches. You should have 19 stitches here at the top. And we only have 17. So something went wrong. Again, frog it. So to prevent that, I'm going to show you. So let me frog this piece. And sometimes that's even satisfying on its own. You just kind of rip. So we're going to frog it. We're going to start all over. And I'm going to show you. What I'm going to do is get out my, I don't know if I can find them. I apologize. I should have had this out. Oh, they're in my bag. My stitch markers. Stitch markers are your friend. Find some, make some, use a piece of yarn. It doesn't really matter. However you want to do it. I purchased these from Amazon. These are little flexible plastic things. There we go. There's like a little, I don't know if you can see that, little hole, little lip, so it doesn't catch on your yarn. It's smooth. It doesn't pull your yarn apart. Stitch markers will be your friend. But I'll show you how to use those too. So let's get into the work, and we'll just make our slip stitch, our slip knot, and we're going to chain 20. So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, see, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. If you have to count out loud, count out loud. However you got to do it. Normally I get in a rhythm and I do like 5 at a time, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, until I get to this stage or the amount that I want. If you're making a big Afghan or something large and you need to make several, maybe hundreds of chains, use your stitch marker. Like every 50 or every 100 chains, put a stitch marker in there. And let me show you how to do that. See the hole? And I use like the flat end. Don't use the end with the little pokey thing, because it won't smoothly go through. So you want to find that hole, and you can just take it and put it through that hole. And then secure it so it doesn't come out. And then there's your stitch marker. So that marks your stitch. You will see in some patterns that it will tell you to use a stitch marker and mark certain rows, because you'll start increasing or decreasing, and that's like for later on. So anyway, we're going to do single crochets, and this is basically how you do it. So you skip your first one and then move to the second one. We talked about that before. You got to give the single crochet room to be as tall as a single crochet needs to be. So we're going to make a single crochet, And we're going to do 19 of these. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get that out of my way. 6, 7, 8. See how it curls? 9, 10. And I'm going to go right in where that stitch marker is. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So there's our 19 stitches. Okay, so we have our 19 stitches across. And now we're going to make 19 more, but you have to do a single crochet so you can make that, or I'm sorry, a chain, so you can make that single crochet go. Now, turn. There's a couple ways you can do it, and you can practice either way. You can go into the stitch like you did with your chain and use that stitch, which makes kind of a nice little ridge across your work, which is fine. Or you can go in just this back loop and up through the middle. See? Did I get it on camera? Through this back loop, up through the middle. You can do it that way, or you can go through both the stitches. And in a pattern, it will tell you BLO is back loop only, FLO is front loop only, and that refers to the loop that is facing you. So the loop that's facing you is the front loop. The loop facing you here, that's the back loop. So either way, but for practice purposes, you can just go through both loops. If you go through the front, well, let's just go through the front loop and I'll show you. So front loop 1. We'll do this across. And starting out, it's a little hard to hold it because there's not a lot to hold on to. So don't get frustrated, just do your best and practice. And I'm not even going to count these, I'm just going to keep on going. And just make sure that you go in every single loop. You're not skipping a loop. You go in the very next loop. Now, when you get to the end, it looks kind of funky. So let me show you. Because you did the chain and the single crochet, it's not going to look like your typical stitch back here. However, if you turn it just a little, you will see, like, there's the front loop that you went in this stitch. And then this is the front loop of this stitch. So this is the back loop. And then this little loop right here is your chain. Okay? So depending on whether you're going through the back loops or the front loops or both loops, that's what it looks like. So there's the loop there. And then this is your last stitch. So that's where you're going to need to put your hook. So this is the front loop, and that's where we're going, and we're just going to make one. So now stop after that row and count your stitches. So you have to count them. If you don't, unless you counted them as you went and you know you have 19 stitches. So this is your chain. You see that? So this is your first stitch. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Okay? If you don't have 19 stitches, you missed something or you added something. Now, remember I said it makes like a little ridge or a little line? When you crochet in the front loop only, it makes that little line there. And sometimes in your pattern, it can be pretty to have that line in there. So it just depends on what you're working on and the effect that you want to have. So it's so super important to count. Count your stitches. Use your stitch markers. You can also use other yarn for stitch markers. Let me frog this really quick and pull this apart. And I'll show you how to do that. Just cut, it doesn't matter how long or how short, just cut a piece of yarn. You have a piece of yarn. Find where you want your stitch marker. Let's say we want to put it in this stitch. Okay. Grab your yarn, pull it over your hook, pull it through, grab one end of this and then just pull the other end through. And there's your stitch marker. So you don't have to go out and buy fancy things like these, or I know some people buy the little clip things so that they can count their rows and they have like numbers on them. So like this is row 1, this is row 2. I can see how that can be super helpful, especially in the beginning, because whenever you're looking at your work, you're like, oh my God, how many rows is that? This is 2 rows. So depending upon like the ridges that you have, so you know this is the bottom row, this is the top row, and then the next one is going to have a ridge on the other side, so then that would be the 3rd row. You'll get used to that, but in the beginning, if you want to use stitch markers on every row, do it. Do what makes what's best for you, because at the end, this is your project. This is your fun time. This is your happy place, and you need to do what's best for you to be able to keep track of your work and make it look the way you want it to look. So I hope all of this helps. If you have any other tips or questions, please feel free to post, comment, post pictures if you have pictures of something, and I'll see where I can help you. So I hope you all have a wonderful day.